I am the author of 2 books focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. My first published book, Crown Rules: One Woman's Journey to the Throne, is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2: How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, as well as our other streaming channels. And it is Thursday, 9 o'clock, and usually every Thursday, and we try to stay on schedule, is we discuss this beautiful young lady's book, Crown Rules 2: How Black Men Love. And folks, when I mean the questions, we're going fast. We're on episode 10, question 8. Last week, we were able to have a guest, Coleman, who is actually chapter 8. So anyone that has the book, anyone that doesn't have the book, you can purchase the book on Amazon, Crown Rules 2: How Black Men Love. And anyone that has the book, if you read chapter 8, Coleman was our guest for last week's show, and he did a great job, and we appreciate that Coleman was able to join us last week. And going forward, we'll try to get some of the other participants in the book to join as well. And we're on that beautiful question 8. Good evening, Julia.
Good evening, Quentin. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How's everything?
Everything is good. Thank you so much. So happy to be here again.
Well, like I told you last night, I did a show and it was very interesting, and I was a little amped up. And tonight I'm on coffee and water.
Okay.
So I'm good. I'm not on my vitamins that I decided to take right before the show, like a dum-dum. So I'm good though. But it's beautiful to have you. Beautiful. I know one of my close friends. He's very happy. He finally got his book yesterday, and he's excited, pumped up, geeked up. I mean, like I always tell you, one of the things about the book that is good is to get able to get people to understand Black men, because we aren't as transparent as we may seem to be. Maybe with our mothers, our sisters, and our cousins, but not always with the person that's in our corner or the person that we love and person that we're intimate with.
Yeah.
So take it away, Jules.
Oh, okay. So tonight's question number 8 is, what about love frightens you? And I had the opportunity in preparing for tonight's show to go through all of our gentlemen's answers as we do every week. And I was just amazed. I feel like every time I read it, I get more and more from it, which is what I love about this book. And I hope anyone who already has the book feels that way as well. Last week when we had Coleman on, he was talking about kind of understanding how we come to love ourselves. And I think that what the book allows us to do in reading is get to understand ourselves and to get to be more intimate with ourselves on those questions that we might not have someone ask of us, or we might not even have thought to ask. And for this week's question, not only were the gentlemen transparent, but they expressed a level of vulnerability that we have not seen in the book prior to this point. So for tonight, I just want to give a summary of some of their answers, and then kind of, Quentin, if you and I could kind of talk about the ideas that they present.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the first, if you have the book, you know that the book is separated throughout the lifespan, men ages 30 something to 80 something years old. But what Quentin and I do is we look at the answer to a particular question from each man. So for this question, what about love frightens you? The first person was Matt. And Matt said that love in general is a sacrifice. It's a commitment of time. It's like a straight commitment to that person. And when it's right, it's right. He said it's a gamble. And if you win, you can win big. But if you lose, you can also lose big.
Mm.
And he said that's what frightened him about love. He said that he knows people who have found themselves in very unpredictable circumstances because of a relationship going wrong. And he talks very specifically about people not being able to get over heartbreak. And I think the point that he was making is that when you decide to be in, let's say, a committed relationship with someone, you have to be clear on why you're getting into that relationship, and be willing to take the journey, not just, be in a relationship for the experience. Some people just want to have the experience of relationship, but don't want to necessarily take that journey. But if you decide to get off, you have to think about how you're leaving the person who you're no longer going to be with, and the consequences that will have for them.
When he described it in the book, and excuse me because I'm not as abreast on the chapter exactly. He said that it's rewarding,
Yes.
and the other side, he said, it could be very painful.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you in these 10 brothers questions, right? You think that if you would have asked, say, if you had the 11th brother, right? The 11th person was an individual who've only experienced love from one woman, and that was quote unquote his high school sweetheart all the way up until now, and that's the same person he's been dealing with. That's all he knows. Do you think that that person would be frightened of love?
Absolutely, because what we find, maybe not to that extent like we just discussed, but what you find when you look at the other gentleman's answers, there are different fears associated with love. And so, for example, Lee talked about how he's not afraid or frightened by love. What concerns him is if he was in a long-term loving relationship and lost his spouse or lost his partner. He said very specifically that he would want to be the one to go first, because he didn't think that he could deal with the heartbreak of not having his partner in his life anymore. So that's a different type of fear, as opposed to failing. It's based in losing that love.
Okay.
Some of the other gentlemen talk about the fear of loving someone one day and then realizing the next that you don't love them anymore.
Mm. Mm. Is that loving the thought of being with someone, or loving them? Because loving another human being, I think that it would require someone to love someone at their highest with all their strengths, and then loving them at their lowest in all their weaknesses. I mean, I believe that. I think that some people think. I think that some people might think that it's a little easy to love someone at their lowest point, where they're weak. They're weak, and this is always a trick question, because you always hear a lot of people say, um, I want to meet somebody, but okay, you had great standards and standards are good. And then you be like, I got a deal breaker. Like maybe that person don't have that quote unquote issue that's a deal breaker today when you meet them. But perhaps that deal breaker could be something that happens 10 years within the relationship.
Which is one of the things that Kevin in the book talks about. He talked about what frightens him about love is needing to be vulnerable. And Eric also said the same thing, that love, true love, is about being vulnerable and about establishing trust and about being able to be honest. Eric said, for example, if you know that you have a history of prostate cancer in your family and that all of the men in your line have passed away at the age of 50, and you're in a relationship with someone when you're 40, you don't wait until you get to 50 to share that history with them. You will want to share that history with them at an earlier stage so that you can do what you need to do together as a couple to ensure your health and your well-being. He said, but sometimes pride and ego gets in the way of sharing those truths, those deep truths that, might
Is
be
that is that
embarrassing.
is that is that do you think that's vulnerability or that's just fear of loss? Fear of, a lot of times people will be like, I put this much time into this, I put this much effort into it. Don't waste my time. That's what you hear most people say is, don't you wasted my time. You wasted my time. Maybe they should say, you wasted my love.
I don't think that they should say either. I've been thinking about this question, Quentin, because we've talked about it a lot in our shows about the question of saying that someone wasted, your time. And I was thinking about that
You
today.
got a question. You got a question from a good friend of mine.
How are we talking about love with no Black men on the panel? We're talking about my book that I published, Crown Rules 2 King, How Black Men Love, where I interviewed 10 Black men for their perspective on love. And so that's what we're discussing. That's what we discuss every week. Last week, we did have one of the guests. Last week, we did have one of the guests on the show. So this is what I want to address. I don't know why this is blasphemy that a woman who is interested in understanding and sharing understanding of how Black men love is considered blasphemy. I think that
But I think he might just be saying, "Where's the men that on the panel?"
uh-huh.
Until you explain to Jeff, I don't think he
Okay.
I knew we were going over your book.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't think it's considered someone wasting your time. Like, we have to be able to arrive at a point where we accept responsibility for the choices that we make, understanding that sometimes we don't see where we could have made a better or different choice until we've had the experience. And it's not, there are red flags all the time. There are signs all the time. It's up to us whether or not we want to see them. And if we see them and decide to go forward and we don't get that end result that we're looking for, it's not necessarily that person's fault. I think it's more so our accountability to be honest with ourselves.
This question, this question is a real important question. I know that you even got Coleman to explain this question last week to give him, to give us some insight why he was there on this question, which appears to be a question that's perfectly placed in the book on that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that fear sometimes can be that self-sabotaging behavior. Like, you could be so fearful of quote unquote love that you might meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and they come along and they check all the boxes, and you so scared, you so fearful of love that you sabotaging everything in the process of really appreciating that person who in turn is really trying to appreciate you and share some things with you. So I'm quite sure one of the brothers in the book spoke about that.
Yes, if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. It's a little
Absolutely.
long, but it hits the point. This comes from Charm, who is in our 50-year-old category. And this is, we had a lot of discussion about what frightens him about love. And basically what he was saying was giving your all to someone and not receiving the same. And he also made the point that people love differently. So while sometimes you may not feel like you're getting the same kind of love, that person just loves differently. But this is what he said to exactly what you're saying, Quentin. He said, this is on page 106 for everyone who has the book. When you are in a relationship with someone, there are some things that you have to be willing to fight for. See, being in love with somebody and being in a relationship, you have to be willing to fight for certain things when you love somebody. So you go outside of yourself because you want to show this person love. That's what love does. It makes you become this dynamo of a person because you want to be there for somebody who hasn't been there for themselves. You want to show them what it's like to be loved. You want to embrace them. And you're showing them through your actions. And you tell them, like, chill out. You don't have to do that. You don't have to treat me like that. You know why? Because I don't deserve that. And that's and the person that's been treating somebody, and excuse my French, but I'm going to just say it like this because you've allowed me to do that. But stay out of your fucking way and allow me to come in. Some people try to get out of your way, and you have to show them how to let you get in their way. I'm trying to save you because I love you. Allow me to do that if you say you love me. So if you love me and you're not allowing me to do something, I'm not forcing your hand. I'm saying, allow me to love you so that you can love me. Allow it. He said, the people that love you, they've got it in them. And the people that don't, they don't have it in them. And it hurts because you've shown so much love to them. And people show that they don't love you by their actions. He also said, if you're not living with your soulmate, you're living with your cellmate.
That's an interesting analogy.
But he's making the point that, you know, when people are afraid to allow themselves to love, they'll have someone that's loving them, that's there for them, but they won't get out of their own way to experience that love and that connection.
Yeah, they basically, I agree. They basically have turned that love into basically emotional prison for themselves, with not being able to get that feeling, not being able to express really what's going on.
One of the other gentlemen in the book said that what scares him about love, and this was Hermes. He said that what scared him about love is people's past relationships with boyfriends or fathers or parents, that when we're growing, when we're being developed and we're being nurtured, we learn how to receive love and give love by parents, family, etc. So if those experiences are toxic or not healthy, that's what we bring into a relationship as well. And he said that's what he's afraid of, because people will present one thing and do another. Black men and women have been damaged by love. I've noticed that Black men would prefer to not give love to save themselves. The heartache, instead of allowing the woman to rise to the occasion, and maybe it's twofold. What do you think about that, Quentin? Thank you, T. LaShaw.
I think that's very interesting. I think that like I said, I think that your question was 100% accurate the way that you worded it. And I think that they answered it because that love really is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of failure stops most people from job opportunities, life opportunities, relationships. Because most people be like, I don't see nothing in it. I don't want to fail doing it, so I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to put the effort in it.
May I read one more
Absolutely.
statement? So to that point, truth to be speaking, is love really a valid condition for a long-term agreement? Emotions wane. Love can turn into responsibility and accountability, right? But the initial bonding is based in emotion and is maintained through that emotion, in addition to those other things. The fear of failure. Nikki D on page 155. He says, "What about love frightens me? What frightens me about love is that I expect them to be real with me unless it's something that's going to hurt me, and I should be real with them. What frightens me about love is that I'm going to be vulnerable and you're going to see who I really am. What I'm afraid of, what I can't do, the gap between my dreams and goals and where I am, the possibility that I'll never reach them, although they are my stated goals. What frightens me is that I might remind you of some nightmare from the past, that you'll shut yourself down from me and whatever progress we've made is going to be killed. You're just going to snatch that away because I remind you of that guy who fill in the blank. I think what frightens me most is being compared to a bad experience."
I'm telling you that's it. That's it. If now I know that we discuss him, men, and Julia has also written Crown Rules, a Black Woman's Guide to Love,
A
right?
Woman's Journey to the Throne.
Oh, A Woman's Journey to the Throne. Excuse me, I
No
have the book and
problem.
I forgot the name. So her first book deals with a woman. It's more like a journal, but it deals with a woman and the woman's issue with love and their guide to the throne. The second book is dealing how black men love. Like I explained, it's 13, it's 10 gentlemen she interviewed, different ages of their life, different stages and different maturity where they're at. It's 13 different questions. But when I look at this question, Julia 8, when what about love frightens you? I know from having so many female friends and just conversating that those that were married prior, if you ever ask them, like, why are you single? Which is kind of like an offensive question sometimes. Some people get offended if you ask them why they're single,
Right.
but they'll tell you, like, I don't have time for BS. So to get through all the minutia, the time for BS, my career, all that, it really comes down to I'm not going to put the effort in to find that love or to be in love with somebody only to get hurt or let down. And I think that in some cases it works the same way for men. An individual be like, look, I ain't got no time for that, man. Like, I went through all this crap, went to court. She done had me jammed up. I done had to beat up a brother. Some more, you might be on some extra stuff. Like, I done had to beat somebody up. I ain't got no time for that. I'm paying money still. She got me in court for child support. I'm paying alimony. And that individual he may be like, I'm good with just being a monogamous guy. I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want love. I'm just good. I just want to come and go as I please.
Which is what our gentlemen talk about in respect to this question, is that the part that is frightening is it not working. And if you've had a bad experience, it can leave an awful taste in your mouth to the point where, as you had shared in a prior episode, you give all of the benefits of a relationship. You want all of the benefits of a relationship, but you don't want to have the commitment. And I think one of the things that I so appreciate about Shakita.
That's Dwayne. Oh yeah, that's Shakita. That's Dwayne for you.
Hi, Dwayne. Stop putting new wine in old wineskins. Exactly. One of my favorite scriptures is what I love about Shakita and the things that she promotes is that there is a certain level of maturity that you have to arrive at if you are willing to be in or decide you might want to be in a relationship. And part of that maturity, number one, has to do with forgiving yourself for the experience of the past. If you knew better, you would have done better, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, not only do you understand or try to understand what your failings, what your misgivings, or what your faults may have been in that prior relationship, but you also want to learn new ways of being, new ways of communicating, new ways of identifying what you need and what you want for yourself, new ways of being able to look past the superficial and really connect to who it is you're interested in and see if it's something that you can vibe and gel and create a future on. Like, you have to mature in that sense. Even if you decide that you don't want to be with anybody, you still should have that understanding and that growth. If you don't mature in that regard, it's sad. You haven't benefited from the experience.
Oh, that's Dwayne's question again.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I knew question 8 was your question in the book. Like, that was the question.
I mean,
I'm gonna ask you, Jules, what made you when you decided 13 questions, right? Did you go over each question and say this has to be question 1, this has to be question 2? Why was it important for you to do it like that?
Because there's a natural progression. There's a natural progression to the book. I'm going to read Nicole's question in a moment, but I just want to answer this. There's a natural progression in the book. So the first progression is it covers love across the lifespan in these Black men's lives. So we start at the age of 35. Where for most people, you start to understand yourself. You've had enough experiences. You are able to not only make sense of your history, but you're also able to make some very clear decisions about your future moving forward at that point. And then it progresses through the ages up until the age of 80. I think he was 87 at the time, to understand what love is from that point of view. So that's the first progression. The second progression is the question. So the first question starts with, who was your first example of love? Because love, in addition to other things in our life, it matures across our lifespan. And the first example of love is critically important to our development as a youth. And then as we go through the questions, we also talk about, what was your most memorable love experience? So now we're at a point where you're an adult and you've had a relationship, you've had a loving relationship. And what did that mean to you? That's going to be different than your first example of love.
And the reason why, just for clarification in the chat, the reason why I asked Julie that question is because if you read the book, it's one of them type of books that you can't really put down. And the reason why I say that is because when you read question 1, chapter 1, that's that person's journey beginning. So now you may want to skip and go to chapter 4. See, how did chapter 4 answer question 1? So each individual answers those questions in chronological order, and you kind of see where they're at in their lives, who, like Julia said, what was their first experience of love. So this is one of the reasons why I asked the question. Before we get to Nicole's question, I'm going to just show everybody Jules' video, the way to get the book, while we go over this each week.
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Crown Rules with our host Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier. I am the author of 2 books focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. My first published book, Crown Rules, One Woman's Journey to the Throne, is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Now, Nicole's question was, a lot of times a woman gets irritated when someone asks why they're single because some hear it as, what is wrong with you? Why you don't have a man?
Exactly.
I
And
think it's funny that Nicole said that, and I guess it's odd how we communicate, because I think that sometimes some men may say that because they're surprised that that particular female doesn't have a man, because they may think that that particular female checks all the boxes and be like, wow, she's dope. I'm interested in her. Like, why she ain't got no man? It's more of like a question that it's like a rhetorical question. Sort of say, if a guy says that to a woman, and I'm just speaking from experience and talking to my fellas, that sometimes you'll be like, I don't understand why this female don't got a man, because she nice. Everything is good with her. Like, what's the problem?
I think it's an opportunity for healing within our community, to be honest with you, because from the male's perspective, the question is, why doesn't she have a man? And from the female's perspective, we generally assume that a man always has a woman. And I think part of the problem is we don't have that conversation. One of the gentlemen in the book, DT, who's known for being monogamous. No, not monogamous. For not being monogamous.
He's a man of all ages. he's seasoned in the maturity aspect. Just put it that way.
Yes, he's very seasoned. He said when he was younger, when he was 23 years old, he wasn't afraid of failing in a relationship because he felt like he could start over easily if he wanted to. He said at the age of 43, which is at the age where I'm interviewing him, that he is more conscious about the choices that he makes. He doesn't have the energy to start over, but more than that, he is more focused, concentrating more on and being a little bit more discerning about who he decides to get into a relationship with. So I think if men would be able to look at women who are single and understand that at a certain point in her life, she becomes a little bit more discerning about her choices of a mate, and that's why she's single, then they can try to get to understand what she's looking for and not why she's single.
You see Dwayne's question?
Dwayne, when you set standards, you have to live those same standards. You absolutely must live your standards, and it could be challenging sometimes. Yeah, because they are well aware a woman's value is based on how much men value them.
Oh,
Well,
got
for a
some.
man. Men don't naturally seek out relations. We tend to float freely and sow our seeds.
What'd you think? What'd you think about that? Think that's
I
true?
think, well, I would say in the case of DT, whose quote I just read, DT has shared with me that in his younger years, he was promiscuous. That's the word. He was extremely promiscuous, and he was out there sowing his seeds as he should have been. The only problem that he had at that time was that he was also trying to be in committed relationships while he was doing that. Like he was trying to hold on to the favorite one
Oh,
while
so
he,
he was in the very definition of being promiscuous.
yes, he was. He
Wow.
said he said he liked all the flavors and he wanted to
He
sample all the flavors.
he was at Baskin Robbins, huh?
Absolutely. But then at the age of 43, where he had destroyed a 16-year relationship by being promiscuous and cheating on the woman that he loved, he began to understand the importance of trust. And
Mm.
that's what it comes down to. So it's not really about sowing seeds, it's about being able to be in a committed relationship with someone, being loyal to them, being honest with them, and then being able to trust you. And he understood that at that point in his life was more valuable than sampling all the flavors.
I'm gonna ask you a question. This is probably not has nothing to do with the book whatsoever. Do you think that with your research from the book and your experience, you're a woman of a certain age, um, that we focus the courting period, so to say, that some of us are so focused on the end of the courting process, the marriage or whatever, that we're not really courting with honesty. And what I mean is that we're not being honest. We're not just living. Just I met this nice person. We going out. Let's just stay in the moment. You think some of us are too busy trying to play that mental chess in our head, like, oh, what's gonna happen a year from now? We start planning, wanting to go look for houses and all this old crazy stuff.
I agree 100%, Quentin. And I was in a certain aspect of my family, the idea of courting was critically important. Um, and I don't think that our generation, or I think that the art of courting has been lost. A lot of people date, but they don't court. And usually when people are dating, they're looking for an end result. And if they feel like most of the boxes are checked off, then they're immediately ready to move on to the next level. Courting is different from dating in the sense that you have made a decision that this is the person that you want to be your intended. And so an intended is a word they used to use before, but this is the person that you want to share your life with. And so when you're courting, you're using the courting experience to get to know each other at that level, at the partnership level, at the potential marriage level, before you start making these decisions to look for a house, to get the car, to buy the home, to plan the wedding. There's some girls or women that'll date for 3 months and start looking at wedding dresses. And it's like, how
I
how are
mean, I,
you?
I believe that is an issue. I believe that may scare someone, and that made me be like, yo, like slow down. I mean, I get it. We all want to be happy. If part of being happy is being with somebody, we all want to be that. But I think that sometimes people may feel like if I have a mate, that's what's going to make my life complete. So then they'll start rushing into those type of situations. Like, yo, you telling me about a wedding dress and all this stuff. I don't even know your family like that. I need to sit back. I need to be around your family when you're not there. I need to see how they interact with each other.
And that
Now,
that, that was
you have
the
a book review here.
okay. Aside, the format of the book is very friendly, although it is a set of questions. It walks you through each man's life. It allows you to focus on each journey separately, but still getting understanding as a whole. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Right?
Nicole, thank you so much for the review. And if you look at each man, the answer to each man's question, or each man's answer to the question, you'll see the progression of maturity and understanding about love across the lifespan too, which is why I like the format of this show, because we get a chance to do that. Pump your brakes. Yeah. That was the goal of courting. When I hear dating, I hear, I'm seeing you, we'll go out, we'll have a good time, but you're also free to go out and date other people, and I am as well. That's dating. We're just enjoying time, we're getting to know each other, etc. The courting stage is about,
You have a question in regard to courting, Julia.
sure, Julia, how can you successfully begin to court if you don't know the person's quality and worth? Why are courting before we get to know if a person is courtable? Well, there's a progression, just like in the book, there's a progression to it. So
you might court them.
You can't court before you date.
You might court them and take them to White Castle, and then it might be a progression. It might be 10 times. They might be worth it. Next thing you know, the next court is you at Peter Luger somewhere.
Next level. Next level.
So we were like, yo, she done upgraded, yo. She courtable, yo. I can take it to a fine dinner, yo. We gonna get real steak. We eat White Castle no more.
If you date her, you take her to White Castle. If you court her, you take her to Peter Luger. But here's the thing: like when you're dating, you're exploring, and you're allowing yourself the freedom of options, and you're allowing yourself the freedom of experience with different people. In the course of dating, if you identify that you are really connected to someone, that you like the vibe, that it feels good, that you want to be with that person as much as possible, that's when the courting period begins. And in that courting period is when you do things like get to know the family, be around the family, see if you can, if it's a healthy environment for you, if you fit in, if you gel. During the courting period is where you get an opportunity to talk about financial standing. A lot of people don't do that. Like, you don't need to tell somebody what your salary is, but there should be some understanding as to how well of a financial manager you are. Like, you can't bring problems to me.
No. It's after Jules. It's after the 2 kids. We find out the Joker's in debt. We find out Joker in debt. IRS on their butt. Bill collectors at their door. You got to park your car around the corner because they know they're going to possess it.
So we talked about in a prior episode how there's a chemical component that happens in the body when you're first interacting with someone that makes you feel like you're more attracted to them than you actually are. But
Julia talking about endorphins now. Pay attention.
Yeah. Endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin. All of those chemical components can make you feel like you're more attracted to this person. Those components in the body, those chemical components in the body last for a period of about 2 years. But if you can interject a courting period into that, where you learn about the family, you learn about financial management, you learn about goals, you learn about a person's attitude, their aptitude, how they handle situations. That's the time that you determine your compatibility for that next step of marriage. But people don't do that anymore.
Interesting. I don't know if we went too far away from the chapter. What's next week's? What's next week's question?
Next week's question is another good question. Give me 1 second. It's question number 9. How do you know when you're in love? What does it feel like to you?
We're going to leave the chat with that. Next week's question is, how do you know you're in love and what does it feel like?
Does it feel
For
like?
those in the chat, we appreciate you guys for joining us this week. Nice, short, and sweet talk this week. We hope that you guys, the same people, join us and bring some friends. Share, like, and subscribe, as Julia says. And let's discuss this. Julia's book, and I'll play the video once again. Julia's book, the second edition. You can buy it on Amazon. If you want an autograph copy and some of the merch that Julia's had, because Julia has this shirt on tonight. Let me see the shirt, Julia. I can't really see it. Oh boy, Crown Rules. She has on some of the shirt.
This is the ladies' shirt. I also have gear for men as well. And I sell the autograph books with the men's t-shirt as a bundle.
Yes. So if anybody wanting to purchase these things directly from Julia, her name is Julia Dozier. You can find her on Facebook. Anywhere else?
Facebook for now.
Facebook. TMI. Facebook for now. Nicole, that was our private joke right there, Nicole. Yeah, Facebook for now.
Doing too much.
But make sure you guys really appreciate you guys in the chat. You guys make it good. Dwayne, I was actually telling Julia earlier how you felt about the book, and I know that Dwayne is going to tag it this week. And Dwayne is one of them avid readers like myself. He's reading about 4 books right now. Beautiful. And he made sure that one of your books was the 4th book that he's reading. And I know that one thing is it's another gentleman that wrote a book, and Dwayne has been talking about this book for the last 4 months. And I know that once he starts reading your book, he's going to be really into it. So those in the chat, we appreciate you guys this week for joining us. As always, have a great week. And this is how you get Joy's book and what the group is about.
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Crown Rules with our host Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier. I am the author of 2 books, focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. Journey to the Throne is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.